It's the Old Doctor Who Show, episode number 39, Logopolis, with special guest Mike Dawson.
Go forward in all your beliefs and prove to me that I am not mistaken in mine. You couldn't control my mind before, and you certainly can't control it now.
Would you like a jelly, dear?
The TARDIS, when working properly, is capable of many amazing things.
Reverse the polarity of the neutron flows, and the TARDIS will be free of the force field.
But the TARDIS is more than a machine, Stephen. It is but a person.
The resulting reaction described. Are you ready?
Welcome to the Old Doctor Who Show, your tri-weekly classic Doctor Who review podcast. I am your host, Eric Grissom, and I'm joined, as always, by the other
Dan
host.
Johnson, your other host.
Dan Johnson. But I'm getting a little excited because it's a special... We have a special day. Is that right? It's a special day.
Whole day is
we have a guest host. This is Mike Dawson, who you probably know from his Process Party podcast, and if you don't, you should be subscribing to that. He's also one of the nation's most beloved cartoonists.
Yes.
Mike, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's good to talk to you both.
It's a pleasure, and I think it's also kind of funny. We're going to get to it later because we always read reviews of our podcast, and I think somebody points out, like, I like the thing I like most about this show is they don't rely on guest hosts.
Oh.
So I'm glad we'll get to read that on our first.
We don't rely on it, but come on, this is great.
Well, I hope you're
Mike,
not relying. I hope this is not you guys relying.
Mike, you got to carry this show for us. Eric and I are sitting back and letting you do all
Mike
the work.
is a professional podcaster who not only had done, or who currently does the Process Party podcast. Mike, you did the Ink Panthers podcast, which was awesome.
For many years.
And then the Talkies. Was that it?
Toxies.
Talkies.
My comics journal podcast. Yeah, that one I did by myself. It's a lot easier. You guys must find this to do a podcast with somebody. It's good for chemistry. Having you have each other to, like, you feel obligated to get it done because you're like, well, my co-host will be mad if we don't come through. Like I do
it mostly to keep Eric from yelling at me.
Right.
So.
I don't think we've never done a solo, or actually, we had like a mini one, I think, once that I did, and I just start rambling. It was like the second ever episode that we did, where it was like trying to announce that Doctor Who's no longer streaming on Netflix, and we had to update the audience of our 4 subscribers at the time to like, all right, guys, I hate to break it to you, but our whole show's in the crapper.
But I found that much harder. So it's better when you got people to bounce things off of.
Now, previously, before we started recording, Mike, you were sharing wisdom about it being. I'm hoping this is what it is. That it's not okay to look at people in the eye, because if I'm ever around someone, I'm probably not going to look you in the eye, and that's my own stuff.
No. So
please justify that.
It was an article I didn't read the whole thing of, but that's the way that we are in the internet age, where we read headlines in the first paragraph. But it seemed to be saying that it's actually not rude to not look people in the eye when you're talking to them, because actually your brain can process what is being said to you better if you're not, like, concentrating on that eye contact. That by hanging your head down and gazing off into the middle distance or looking at the floor, you're actually concentrating more on what's being said to you. And I can see you in both of your.
I'm not even looking at. I'm not looking at Dan right now.
Eric is looking towards his shoulder, but he listens intently to what I'm saying, and that's actually being polite.
I think that I'm going to add that to my whole thing. When I'm not looking at someone, I'm just going to start mumbling, I could process this better. I'm processing it so much better right now.
I'm doing this for you.
Well, I 100% think it's true, because I have sometimes been talking to people and I'm like, oh, I should make eye contact. And then all I'm doing is thinking about, like, the eye contact and becoming very, like, self-aware, self-conscious of it.
Right.
Like,
well, anytime I look at someone's eyes, I'm like, oh my God, they know. And then my whole brain is just figuring out, what they don't like about me and how I can, and then I no longer have any idea what they're saying.
So it's better, yes.
But we're not here to talk about social graces or social behavior. No, we're here to talk about Doctor Who. Now, Mike, you have some experience with Doctor Who, being not born in the United States. So you watched this stuff as a kid, right? That was a very long, complicated way to
yes,
say.
I grew up in England, so Doctor Who was always on. And I think the reason you asked me to come on this episode was I believe you and I had at some point had a conversation about this being an episode that was very memorable to me. And the funny thing is, I rewatched it, and I don't remember any of that. Completely not how I remembered it. Except for the final bit at the end with the regeneration scene that, like, seared itself into my psyche. Like, just, creeped me out. So I never forgot that part. But I thought the whole episode was about something different.
Was that your first regeneration that you had seen?
Probably, yeah. Because Because was this 81, 82? This came out?
81, yeah.
So Doctor Who was on, and so I sort of think of Peter Davison as my doctor, quote unquote, because that's the one where I was more actively watching. So I caught the tail end of Tom Baker, I guess. So I saw this, creeped me out. But yeah, the episode itself was. Yeah.
I remember, specifically, you were like, "Oh, this episode scared me or freaked me out," and then when I was rewatching it, I was like, "I don't know which part was
the Watcher.
What ruined the young Mike Dawson's experience?"
Did you guys not think the Watcher is creepy looking? The Watcher, Dan, does that?
Yeah,
I think the Watcher was super creepy. I mean, we'll get into this, but it had this kind of Lynchian feel to it that I freaking loved.
Yeah. All right.
I mean, the music, the tone, everything. I think this is a pretty creepy episode.
I think you need to hit that button, Dan, because we're already talking about Logopolis before we're talking about Logopolis.
What's the button do?
Let's jump into it.
All right, hit the button, Mike.
What's the button do?
So that was the Master.
How do you deduce that?
I just guessed.
Never guess. Unless you have to. There's enough uncertainty in the universe as it is.
But I can help you. Can't I?
In the ordinary way, yes. This is something far too serious.
What sort of something?
A chain of circumstances that fragments the law that holds the universe together.
Logopolis?
Yes. That area's the recent addition.
Are we going to be staying long?
You are.
What?
You and I have to part company.
Look, if you're going after Nissa, I'm coming too.
Don't argue.
I demand to see who's ever in charge of this ship.
It's Logopolis, the 7th and final serial of the 18th season. This is from 1981. It's written by Christopher Beedmead. Beedmead? It's written by Speedweed, who's known for his Law & Order episodes. You know I'm talking. People out there know that. When they see that name Speedweed, look it up. Director Peter Grimwade, and this story is about the Doctor dying. Mike Dawson, our special. Normally, I do a more elaborate Logopolis style. I didn't. I have a lot of stuff going on in my personal life, so I'm going to throw this one to Mike. Mike Dawson, what did you think about Logopolis? We already kind of know that some of your backstory.
I liked Logopolis, and I found as a person who actually doesn't watch Doctor Who that much. What I realized that I always do enjoy it when I sit down and let myself get into a Doctor Who episode. I do get sort of hung up, I guess, on the special effects and all that sort of stuff. That's why I'm not a religious watcher of the Doctor Who. Anyway, the story is about Tom Baker and his this little page boy who's hanging out with him. Wearing a potato sack.
Yeah, they ran with his little rope belt. That poor guy.
And those pants.
He's got a badge, though. I mean, come on. He's
an athlete. Yeah.
Do you think he's wearing underpants under those...
I'm certain
not
he's
at
not.
all. Yeah, not at all.
The very thin material though that he's wearing. I feel like that's a.
It looks very cold. He would be cold. If the wind picked up a little bit, he's definitely goosebumping it, doing whatever.
So wearing a drafty potato sack, this little boy called Adric.
Now we know that you saw Logopolis obviously as a kid, but did you watch the show? Was it a regular part of your life watching Doctor Who?
Yeah, I think it was just on. I mean, in the olden days, we only had 2-3 television channels, and it was just on in the afternoons, probably, and I probably just watched it.
But I imagine it was probably more frequent. For us, Dan and I, was just weird, if it was on PBS and your dad's yelling down, put on 36, and then you put it on, and it would be sort of like once in a while, or it would jump around. For you, was it like sort of it's Saturday, we're watching Doctor Who?
Yeah, I think it was just on a regular show that you would watch and wouldn't think that much about, in fact. But I liked it as a child. I don't think I followed it. Like, I couldn't tell what was happening, probably, which still, as an adult, there's an element of that I wanted to ask you guys about. Like,
this episode
are some
especially,
of these things
there's some stuff
necessarily supposed to make sense? Like, is it all scientifically sound?
We'll get to. I guess we'll figure out. Like,
I think it makes sense.
Yeah.
It's a little convoluted, but I think overall it makes sense.
Well, what doesn't make sense is in the beginning of the. I'm not going to say episode. In the beginning of the serial, or you could say
Story.
episode 1 story.
You can say story. Yeah.
The TARDIS appears next to a trash can with a sign that says, "Please take your litter home."
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're taking your litter home, why do you need the trash can?
You're supposed to put it in the trash
and
can
then take the trash can.
Yeah, take the whole trash can.
See, that does not seem practical.
And then someone comes from the council and puts another trash can.
Oh, it's like a City Bikes program.
Right, but just for trash cans.
Like, you can get your, everyone. It's a trash can sharing program.
They're very ahead of their time.
So, and that is the only police. So there's a police box next to the trash can that we find out later in the episode. The Master has actually formed his TARDIS around. Correct?
Yeah,
right.
And then later on, our Doctor lands his TARDIS on top of the Master's TARDIS, creating some kind of never-ending TARDIS loop, right? Of like TARDISes within TARDISes.
Yes,
Science.
And it was brought to you by Entropy, which was the official sponsor of this episode was Entropy.
How about, was it brought to us by Entropy?
They say it like 5,000 times, like, and by the end, it's just like constantly like, why Entropy? Look at this place; it's falling apart. Entropy. I'm going to introduce Entropy into Logopolis and the whole system.
But is that why the Master and the Doctor happen to go to the same blue police box? Because there is presumably a human-created blue police box by the side of the road next to the trash can, right? That the Master goes to.
That's actually there
on his TARDIS, and the Doctor happens to go to as well. But is it Entropy that causes them all to go to the same one?
No, I don't know.
Okay, so at this period of time, the Doctor does say that he needs to get the measurements of the TARDIS so he can fix the chameleon circuit finally.
Yep.
And that there aren't very many that are still in use on Earth. But there are still some in the north of England, so maybe there are only a few that they can actually go to. But the other thing that's important is the Doctor says that the Master must have known that he was going to fix the chameleon circuit because they're both Time Lords, and in many ways their brains are the same.
So the Master would sort of... Because the Master always seems to be a step or two ahead of the Doctor in this story.
Yeah.
Yep.
So he somehow knew that would be where the Doctor would go.
Yeah, we just have to buy that. But I think they try to explain it in the story. No. I mean, feel free. Pick it apart, put it back together.
So the Doctor, as we're saying, so he goes to Earth, and I don't know about you, Dan.
Yeah.
But I always like the space episodes. That's sort of generally what I like. But once I saw that we were back on Earth, I was actually happy to be back on Earth. I was like, I missed Earth. I felt like it was good. It was good to be back.
I like the space ones. I like the Earth ones for the most part, except Pertwee getting stuck there for several seasons was a little bit much. It's the ones I don't like so much are the historical ones, which is crazy for a time-traveling show. But whatever.
And what did you guys think of the Sheena Easton making an appearance? I don't know if the stewardess...
Okay,
and her grandmother, her aunt, who's miniaturized.
Yeah, it was Auntie Vanessa. So explain to me, Tegan. She's
she's on her way to her job and an airport.
No. But she's not a stewardess yet. They make that clear. She's not going to be there until something happens today when she gets to the London airport.
Yeah, currently she's still just an airplane enthusiast.
She dresses
every
the
day
part.
of the week. Does she dress up like a stewardess?
Waiting for the call, because I imagine they go to a room where the standby room for stewardesses, and then they get the little drink cart, and if you grab onto it and you hold onto the side, you can get right onto the plane.
Is she like Rudy? Where
she's only a stewardess for 15 minutes,
like the airlines. she always dresses in an outfit like as if she's
just benched the entire time
benched until like the drink cart gets stuck in first class. We need somebody to deliver orange juice to Coach. And they put her in for that 10 minutes. Classic.
So we introduce Tegan, and I mean they're setting the character up that she's really forgetful. The first thing we see is she forgets to get her passport, then she forgets to close the door, then she forgets her luggage getting into the car. This is all in the space of 2 minutes.
She's just human. That's us. Isn't that us? Capital U.
Maybe you.
Well, I have a question. Question for Dan. This one goes to Dan.
Sure.
Are you watching all of these episodes for the first time as you go?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
so you don't know how Tegan's character develops.
Correct.
Right.
For the most part, Eric and I have not seen all.
I
seen
saw
a few more than me.
I saw this episode before, although, like Mike, I was like, I don't remember any of it. And I that was only a few years ago I probably watched it. I 2 weeks from now, you ask me what this is about, and I'm probably going to struggle a little bit. But after this, I don't know Tegan at all. This is the first time, or the only story I've seen with her either, so I'm not sure where she's going to go.
We're purposefully trying to watch this fresh, and though I do some, it doesn't show in the recordings here, though I do some research about the stories that we're watching, I try not to get any spoilers, and I've been reminded to not do that by some people on Twitter. Uh-huh. But anyway, so I don't know anything about what's coming up.
So you don't know if Tegan's forgetfulness continues on into the Peter Davison years, and that's forgetful Tegan, she never remembers to close the TARDIS door.
I don't know if she ever changes out of her stewardess outfit. She might stay in that for years.
That's possible,
forgetful
right?
Tegan.
I mean, Adric has been in the same.
I don't think he's ever showered.
Mike and I have talked at length about Adric, but what is your take on him aside from his wardrobe and killer haircut?
You and I have. Yeah, tell us about your Adric feelings.
Because it's probably the only episode you've seen with him that you can recall, anyway.
Yes, that's true. I don't really know sort of where. I gathered some of his backstory from the episode. He's an alien. He's not a human, right?
Got it.
That was confusing to me because I didn't realize he was an alien until later in the episode. Because I was wondering what his outfit and hairstyle was about. I like the bit where I think he doesn't like Tegan. I think he gets a little bit prickly, at her presence. Because there's that scene where the doctor's in trouble and Adric's about to go away with the Logopolian monitor. And Tegan's we've got work to do, and Adric's all we're doing it. Tegan.
He's a bit of a snot.
He's such a pain in the butt. And then you have him and his girlfriend, Nisa. I get it. They had a half of an episode last storyline, but now they're best friends.
It's total puppy love. Every time she comes onto the screen, Nisa! And she's been gone for 5 seconds previously.
He's asking about Nisa when we're barely even talking about something else, and he's like, "Was Nisa going to be there? Did Nisa call? Did she ask about me?" But he was a little bit again. This and Keep Her Track, and he was a little bit better than he was. Dan and I both just did not like him, and it took a long time. I'm not 100% on team Adric, but
I don't know if there is a team Adric.
Guys. Sorry, I got a child in the room. Hold on. It's BBC Dad here.
BBC Dad, push the kid out of the room. Keep staring at the camera.
To come dive in and take him out of here. I'm getting a lock put on my door this week.
You're just gonna hear drill sound.
Panic room.
Why does also in the beginning when we reveal the Master is here and we see the dolls? We've seen the dolls before, right? That was Terror of the Autons when we first met the Master, and he was making people into dolls. What is that, and why is that?
Yeah,
it's just a weird power to...
I knew that we had seen it before, but just a real quick tangent. I was watching this, especially the first episode of this story, and I was like, this all feels really familiar. The cloister room, even Tegan for some reason, some of this all felt familiar. I realized... several years ago, maybe 7 years ago, I had tried to start watching classic Doctor Who, and this is the first story I tried watching because it was one of the highly rated ones. I had no clue what was going on and stopped it immediately. So I can't remember if I actually saw the little dolls because of that or
no, we did. Terror of the Autons, I believe. That's another classic
he does
plastic
the
factory
thing.
I feel like you keep seeing people that are shrinking. That's sort of the Master's MO. It's just a weird... The Master has so many powers, mind control, and he's super smart, and he also turns people into dolls.
Well, I have a question to you guys, because I was hoping you'd be able to answer this for me. So, when the Master kills somebody and turns them into a doll,
why does no one react like it's a crazy thing?
Well, that's
why is everyone just blasé about it?
Are we supposed to think that they've been turned into a doll, or that's supposed to be a tiny human body, a tiny dead body? Because the way people react is as if it's a dead body. Because they're like, murder has happened here. Like, they knew it was a murder. Like, why were the policemen investigating the presence of some dolls? Like the police.
You thought that the police knew that it was dolls, or that they were just investigating an abandoned car with dolls?
Why would they
dolls in
arrest
it?
the doctor for an abandoned car?
Well, they didn't arrest him,
they
right?
weren't arresting him.
I think they say like you're not being arrested, but come with us or you will get arrested or something.
Right.
He's not.
They just
like,
wanted questioning about this abandoned car.
But if all you found is an abandoned car with some dolls in it, even that isn't really enough to bring someone down to the police station for questioning about.
Right, especially
you
because
don't know of anyone missing. You don't
it
know.
could be the doctor's car.
You could just say, "Oh, that's my car. Those are my dolls."
He clearly said it wasn't his car. He may have intimated those were his dolls, though.
But I guess that's what I'm asking, because there was a bit of an atmosphere of like they could tell something was afoot or something was awry, and I'm wondering how. Like,
yeah,
do they look like little dead bodies?
That's the problem with these special effects. I can't tell what they were going for.
I feel like they're dollified and they're miniature.
Okay, but that makes
versions.
it even weirder.
Yes,
it would be.
yes.
It's weird that that the master shrinks people to death. It's weirder that he shrinks them to dolls to death. So I don't know.
It's one of life's mysteries that we may never know, and
I mean,
I'm sure we'll hear
like
about almost immediately on Twitter.
I like it to go back to like the idea of like. Yeah, like what's creepy about it? Like that is creepy. These little dolls, like as a viewer, you're like, oh, like that's upsetting. I just sort of not sure exactly what the characters are supposed to be, how they're supposed to be taking it. So because it happens again later on Logopolis with these little dolls found in the mathematical nooks.
Oh, those little it looks like potties, like there's a whole hall of just people in the toilet. It was very strange.
That's where you get a lot of your good thinking done, so it makes sense.
With your advocates.
I don't know, because the police didn't seem to me that they were investigating a murder. The doctor, when he sees those things shrunk, knows what's going on. So he knows that they were people and killed, and it's the master. Later in Logopolis, Adric sees them, and he knows what's going on because he knows the master's around, so this must be him. But none of that necessarily lets us know whether they think that they're shrunken bodies or little dolls.
I think in reality, it's got to be shrinking.
You think it's a little dead body?
Right?
Little tiny dead, I guess.
I don't know, but then those Earth policemen should be a little bit more upset. Like they were like,
we'll follow that scenario. You're a cop on the beat, new to the beat.
Let's get to his backstory.
You're driving down the highway. You see an abandoned car. You look inside, and you see
He's 3 days from
person.
retirement.
Would you even think it was real or even possible? Like they're a tiny person, Mike.
I'm just
you
saying,
see a tiny person. Would you think it was a real thing or something you baked? You know what I mean? Like a little organic thing that you created in a doll.
If you touched it and you're like, this is like a little creature, like a little creature.
Do you think
like a woman wearing like a fancy coat?
Right. Do you think they took their little fingers and tried to get like the pulse off? How did they pronounce that the doll-sized person was dead? They must have to have little defibrillator thing.
It's hooked up to a 9-volt battery.
But at that same time, though, it has one of my favorite Adric scenes, which is when he tosses his 10-speed bike at the cop. But for what a wonderful time that was, where you could just toss a bike at a cop.
He could pretend to be trapped underneath a Schwinn. Like, that was the distraction?
Well, then he was hard. He had been hit, I guess, was the thing.
I guess. I don't know. They're on the side. Sure.
Oh, Adric.
Yep, go on. Just hitting some of this stuff. I do like, from the very beginning, even if you didn't know that this was Tom Baker's final episode, like, it's really obvious throughout that this is the tone of the episode. I mean, Entropy, he makes reference to himself getting old, being an old doctor, needing to change. They do a tour of the TARDIS, which I love when they do the little walks around the TARDIS. And they come past Romana's room again. They both look into Romana's room. Yeah,
that was sad. And then they jettison the room. But it's like, the past is
when they
dead.
Look into the room, the doctor walks out and says, that was something like, that was the past, the future is this way. Like, it's all very, I don't want to say heavy-handed, but it's very ominous. It's portentous that this is a very big deal for him.
Was Romana, that was a previous companion?
Yes. Yeah. She was a Time Lord that traveled with him as well, so who also regenerated. So we had 2 actresses playing this character over the course of time. And K9, don't forget K9 was also
they got rid of him.
I didn't hear
so they're cleaning house.
About K9.
Yeah, K9 stayed with Romana. So that was kind of, that tone goes throughout this.
I'm going to annoy your listeners with my not knowing a lot about Doctor Who.
No, do it. We don't know anything either.
So not all Time Lords get like a job title. Like the Doctor, the Master, Romana was just called Romano.
She
Romana,
yeah.
She was the baker. That's what I'm asking.
No, she didn't have one. I don't know what...
Yeah,
I feel real horrible that I don't know this, but there is a reason why they have these names, and it is stated at different times, but I don't
like why the Master's called the Master.
I think the Master's called the Master the way the Edge is called the Edge. He just thought it was a good idea. Like, I'll sound even more...
you mean it was ordained by God?
If I call myself the Master. He came up with that name on his own. And how long it took for people to stop referring to him as Steve or whatever his given name was.
I'll check off there what happened to K9, because K9 is one of my favorite bits of Doctor Who as a child, and I wish K9 was in the episode. I don't really understand what K9's deal was, but I'll look into that myself.
You were his target audience, absolutely.
Was it 4 children?
What's that?
Was K9 4 children? He was.
Without a doubt. Yeah, he was brought on to help boost ratings. Yeah,
I love K9, so I will look. I'll go on to Whoapedia or whatever it is later on and find out what the deal with K9 was. So
TARDIS.wikia.com.
Yeah, well, we covered the last K9 episode.
We did.
Story. I said it again. Storyline.
Sure.
He died in a fiery explosion in the water, right?
That's not at all.
No, what was his last episode? I can't remember now. I know if we did it.
That was Warrior's Gate. He went off with Romana.
Oh, right. Okay, so he's traveling space, and Romana
he's traveling with Romana. The Doctor has the schematics to be able to create another K9 if he needed to, but he went off with Romana. He's in an alternate universe saving people with a different Doctor.
Oh, nice. I like to think that. He's at a farm somewhere.
He's right
Doctor farm somewhere. Still safe.
We can't visit him this weekend. Maybe next weekend we'll go see him.
K9's in E-Space now. He's much better off. But he's if you want to write some fan fiction, I mean, there you go. You got all the parts are there. But the jettisoning of rooms, the TARDIS can't take. We've never seen that before. Like that seems. Have they ever done that? They're trying to drop weight, so they get rid of Romana stuff.
Yeah, I don't know that we've seen that in the classic series at this point. We definitely do see it in New Who later on.
It was a weird thing because other than the symbolic nature of getting rid of the past,
was why.
There was, they just sort of added that to it.
I'm sure you could have jettisoned any number of the thousands of rooms that exist in there, but...
So jumping back on Mike's sort of question, and here's some of my questions. The Master goes to Earth because he knows the Doctor's going to Earth, because he knows he can think that he's going to fix the chameleon circuit.
Yeah.
But then at the end... The Doctor's like, oh, I'm so vain thinking he was after me the whole time, but he was after Logopolis. Why didn't the Master just go right to Logopolis? You know what I mean? Did I miss something? Like, was there... Oh, no, wait. You have to go to Earth...
To get the measurements.
To get them... But no, he didn't need the TARDIS measurement. He needed that 780s supercomputer room, right?
Yeah.
We're going to get to that. Can we get to that? Because I'm also very fuzzy on sort of the whole plot.
Yeah,
the Master is able to
the Master has
in a potted plant, no problem. Like his chameleon, his
chameleon circuit's great.
His chameleon circuit works all the time, but it's always an inappropriate thing that he has. Like when he's
a potted plant in the middle of like a rocky mountain.
Yeah, and he's like a potted plant. Or when he goes to the 70s computer room, he's a Roman column.
Yeah, sure.
It can change, but he's just going to choose to change it to something completely...
The dumbest thing possible.
He's not very smart. I mean, we say that he's smart,
brilliant.
But he pretty much breaks the universe.
He's more book smart than anything. I mean, I feel like there was a lot. I mean, there's still a lot in the first episode. Like, Tegan wandering into the police box and into the TARDIS control room. Did she seem appropriately dazed by the fact that she's not in the police box?
She was kind of cool with the whole thing. I mean,
she was pretty cool with it right away.
She went into the thing and it was bigger. We didn't, she just kept going into doors. And she was more annoyed, I think.
She adapted well. She's like, okay, well, this is a never-ending stream of TARDISes, so obviously, TARDISes and TARDISes, and where is the pilot?
Oh, Tegan.
As a airplane stewardess cosplayer, I demand to see the pilot.
Yeah, you should. We should see more Tegan airplane stewardess cosplay. I think that's something needed.
I've got my costume for the next con.
All right, so somewhere after
she does start. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not done with this.
All right,
yet.
keep going.
She comes
Tegan.
in and immediately starts flipping switches on the control console to try to speak to the pilot. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense.
She's familiar with airplane technology, so she's adapting, flashing the seatbelt lights on and off, and all the gas masks came down, and she was like, "Okay, I understand this.
I know
that's all I need to know." Okay, great. I'm on board now.
So we're all in agreement that we're not quite sure the Master's plan for going to Earth. He stows away on the TARDIS and then gets out at Logopolis, and that sort of makes sense. But why couldn't he have just done it on his own? Who knows? Maybe they addressed it and I missed it.
He didn't even necessarily need to go there at the same time that the Doctor. He just needed to be there at the same time that the Logopolis. That's not it. The people of Logopolis,
the planet of old dudes that look like the bad guy from The Last Starfighter. It was like the alien race of those, or maybe they were in the Flaming Lips. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah, go on to the living.
No,
computers.
He just needed to be there when they built that antenna dish array thing. Like, that's the only time he needed to be there. He didn't need the Doctor to be present for any of this. Yeah, I don't know why he did it.
I liked how excited the Logopolinians were that they had like their antenna. It was like the first time they got internet or whatever. They're like, hey, we get all these channels now, and I didn't quite understand the need to replicate the Earth supercomputer thing. The Faraday, what is it? The Pharos project? Pharos project?
Pharos.
I mean, I get it that the Earth actually, or the universe succumbed and has failed, and they're keeping it alive because of entropy. Again, they keep bringing it up. They're sort of maintaining it, and they're creating vacuums and things to sort of keep everything moving. They're creating dark matter, I guess.
They're creating the charged embointments. That's the thing that they fell through to get into E-space.
Okay, but why do they need... I get my question just being, why the Earth technology? Like, what was it about what we did here that is able to do that, as opposed to... They just needed a reason to go to Earth, right? Is that what... Okay.
You needed the room to...
Sorry I asked that.
Like, to keep the universe together, the room had to, like, have the computers in the same spot.
It had to be
arranged the same way as the
in the 1970s, computers were the height of computer technology, as we all know. So they got the best computers to keep
Earth,
the universe stabilized.
Plenty of dot matrix printers. Those also made a comeback. I don't think we ever get far without seeing those old printers, which I love.
I like that their set that was made to look like the Earth set still had like the saran wrap on all their computers.
What was that? Was that saran wrap, or was it supposed to be? I thought at first it was supposed to be cobwebs, but it didn't look like cobwebs.
Oh, I thought they were like
it was saran
still
wrap?
setting up. They just like got a shipment of Earth computers and like hadn't finished unwrapping.
Like, we don't have time to unwrap these. We got to finish this show in 2 days.
That makes a lot more sense. Okay.
Yeah, like
good.
They're setting it up. They're getting it all ready.
We solved that.
For keeping the Earth together.
Were you guys a fan of the tiny TARDIS? I kind of want a tiny TARDIS in my office. That little tiny TARDIS was so adorable with tiny little Doctor Who in there.
Do you think that the Doctor would not have been able to survive outside of the small TARDIS? Is that why he had to stay inside it?
Well, so what was going on when he was shrunk inside the tiny TARDIS? Because he couldn't move. He was definitely dazed. He kept misquoting, like misspeaking.
Yeah, it was a lot of pressure, I guess, when you're getting shrunk like that.
Because what happened was, so the Master, for some reason, messes up the...
Yeah, he hacked the code, right? Or he hacked the equation.
Yep.
The Doctor doesn't shrink down to doll size. He goes to...
No,
it's like an in-between size.
Right, yeah, it was like...
intermediate.
It was like a fun size, I guess. It would be something
it definitely did seem like, he could survive if he stayed within the TARDIS. They didn't open the door, like that would... Like the pressure or something, like they needed to keep the door lock sealed or something. I don't know, like... Because he could have still opened the door and come out and been little, couldn't he? But it seemed like they definitely made it seem like for stability he had to stay in there and they had to talk to him through the window. Be like,
right, he had to show him the codes.
But, I mean, not to get super nerdy, although I'm on a Doctor Who podcast, I realize this, but the TARDIS itself, they even explained it in this episode, the physical manifestation of the TARDIS is not the actual TARDIS. It's just a presentation of it in the world. That's kind of how the chameleon circuit works. So that shrunk. That doesn't necessarily mean that the TARDIS itself was shrunk.
Okay, yeah.
So I don't know, because it doesn't matter, because this is before this happens in New Who, but in the Capaldi years they do a similar thing where it's a shrunken TARDIS, but he's the right size when he kind of pokes through it. Anyway, I don't know. It was neat. It was a good effect.
Why do I have a note that says scene when they are walking the tiny TARDIS to the workshop? Nothing
because
after
it was
that.
great.
Anything exciting happened at that
It was
moment?
a point of view shot from the Doctor looking out of the TARDIS as they're jostling him around and carrying him down the street. It was cool.
I like that. I like that because it made it seem like the Doctor was the TARDIS. Like that was his. Like they had sort of like his point of view was basically being carried through the street. I liked the map paintings that they have in the background,
man.
like when they go through doors and you see like a painting of Logopolis in the background, like at their computer terminals. It's like it was just nice.
It was nice. It wasn't super effective, but it was.
I guess
really
it's not
good
effective if you're like, oh, look, that's a painting behind him.
Yes,
but I just like seeing that stuff.
Maybe 5-year-old Mike Dawson thought it was like just spot on, but I mean, there was that. There were a couple of those. There was, I mean, jumping way ahead. There's the Master and the Doctor on the antenna dish, and they're fighting, and the Doctor's out on the catwalk. And behind him, you see the open door and the Master watching him, and it's just a still freeze frame of a video of the Master watching him the whole time. That was yeah. There were a few weird things like that.
There was a lot of weird stuff.
But
Nisa herself meets her dad in the toilet. I mean, that part was a little strange. So, Mike, did you get all that? Because I know you hadn't seen Keeper Tracking, or if you had, it was years ago. That the Master had taken the form of her dad. That's pretty obvious, right? Within this episode story.
I was able to sort of piece that together as the story went on, because Nisa is talking to the Master as if he's not the Master. I was wondering why that was happening. I thought maybe the Master was doing a kind of thing where he had his own chameleon circuit, where like he was appearing as her father, but then I think I might have done a little offline research to figure out exactly why that was happening. So,
although he looks nothing like her father.
No, really? He's all emoed out, or he's just like...
it's the same actor. It's the same actor playing it, but like completely different. Like she even mentions he looks years younger.
He's got a makeover, and I guess she...
Well, to sort of... This is a good place to sort of comment here that... what's the actor's name? Ainsley something? The actor plays the Master? Ainsley
the Master.
Anthony Ainley.
Ainsley Alms, the actor. He's what I think of as the Master.
Okay, interesting.
That's like the guy I'm like, oh, that's the Master. So I sort of didn't realize that he'd been played by a bunch of different people prior to this episode.
Right. So you had not seen like any previous ones. Like we had seen Roger Delgado.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually the closest. Like I actually pulled up, I'll put this in the show notes later, but on the site. But photos of the two of the actors playing the Master, and Ainley's characterization is exactly like Delgado's in terms of the look. They behave differently, but that's definitely where they drew the inspiration from.
Yeah, I have a note when the Master interrupts the equation to make the Doctor's TARDIS go small. Because he does this by posing as a Logopolis in the little like Porta-John area. I liked his line reading. It's very sort of like, I don't know if it was an actor who was like he's having a hard time getting a maniacal laugh going, but he has a very sort of whispery way of saying, "At last, Doctor, I cut you down to size."
Yeah, and then he just giggles, and then they just like pans back, and you just see tiny little doll people. It's like, oh, you little scamp. What did you do now?
And that was his first. That was actually his first line as the Master in this whole story.
Oh, is it?
Like that's what he chose to go with. But all right, I had the same feeling. Super weird.
Well, maybe he was finding the character at that point. Then maybe that's why he was like reading it.
He's still working it through.
Yeah, because.
Can we just jumping back before we even get to Logopolis?
Have we not got there yet?
They materialized their TARDIS around the Master's TARDIS, which is around the police box. And the Doctor knows that the Master's in the TARDIS someplace, but can't find him. So their idea is to turn everything off in the TARDIS, but have it materialize inside the Thames and open the doors
Yeah, they're going to flood him out somehow, I guess.
Does this sound like... Is this a sound plan? Would you, if you were Adric at this point and the doctor says, this is my plan, would you have been like, all right, let's do it?
Right, but if that is your plan and then it's a funny moment they're on a boat, but then that's it. Like, that's like, all right, we give up on that plan. We're not going to flood anything. Like, they never even mentioned it again, right? I mean, after that, they just moved on.
You could have moved it 6 feet to the left and it would have fallen off the barge and done your plan. That was a really dumb plan.
I think, yeah, it was not...
I didn't really like it because, it's very unclear, so the doctor's like, we're going to go underwater. Adric,
all right, hear me out.
Can you
stand
swim
against the
first?
wall, stand against the door to stop it from opening. But what was supposed to happen after that? Like, was he going to using his body slowly allow the pressure of the Thames into the TARDIS? Like, he didn't want to get washed away. Like, he was going to,
hang on to
poor Adric was going to have to inflate that potato sack and just hope he could float.
Adric is a flotation device. His dead body is a flotation device. I don't know.
So the
also,
purpose
the
of the
TARDIS
scene
is...
The purpose of the scene is to get him down on the boat. They step out. There's an amusing bit like, oh, we're on a boat. There's the Watcher. I'm going to go have a chat with the Watcher on the bridge. So that's like what progresses the story in the sequence. But yeah, there's sort of a bit of a question of like, how exactly was that plan going to actually pan out?
Yeah, had that actually plan been seen through to fruition, how would that have worked?
What would have happened?
The TARDIS is kind of infinite on the inside too in terms of its space. It could have just sucked up the whole Thames and still not. Anyway.
Oh, if it was infinite, it could have drained all the water in the planet.
Yeah, I mean, it's not infinite. Don't correct me on Twitter, folks. But I mean, still, yeah.
But if it's TARDISes within TARDISes,
that's true. Actually, you're right. It's
TARDISes all the way down. It's just straight down TARDISes.
Like, so you could be draining the Thames down like an endless drain. Yeah. Correct.
Mm-hmm. I think you're right.
Like, how would you turn it off? And where was the master going to float out? Thank God for them not landing that in the water. Like, that's a dangerous...
Thank goodness his plan didn't work.
That was probably why his last words were, "I'm not very good at this," and now it all sort of...
So we do get to see the Watcher on the bridge at that point. I think every time we see the Watcher, it is awesome. That's what makes this episode for me. Is just
when
that,
he's like, "Why is Powder here?" And you're just wondering.
I thought. I mean, to me, this is a little nerdy too, but he looked like one of the clowns from like the classic Italian Commedia dell'arte, like the whole white clown thing. Yeah. So I did a little research on that. But that character is supposed to be the voice of the people. An expression of the people. I don't know that they necessarily went with that, but it looks so much like that sort of character they were going for.
That was awesome.
The whole time, just being super creepy, and it was just to me.
You don't know what it is, and you know enough that the Doctor knows what it's going on, but the audience is never tipped off until the end. I thought that was handled really well.
And every time he speaks to a character, we're not aware of what is actually said, because he speaks to Adric as well. He obviously speaks to Nyssa because he brought her to Logopolis, but.
Yeah, I like that. I like how the Watcher sort of all this stuff is happening off screen. Mm-hmm. Just a question for clarity: is it the future Doctor? Like, is it Peter Davison, or is it the present? Like, I know it's the Doctor, sort of somehow through time, kind of going back.
My understanding, my takeaway from it was that it actually was the fourth Doctor.
There was Tom Baker.
No, I'm sorry, fifth Doctor. I'm sorry, it was Davison. It was Davison doing this. It was the fifth Doctor helping his former self out.
See, I thought that it is the Doctor, the total Doctor. Like, it's his spirit that's the common thing between all the bodies, as opposed to individual
I like
personalities.
That better.
I like that's what the Doctor actually looks like.
Yeah, kind of like his spirit self or whatever. Like his.
You saw a close up of those hands. He got nasty talons.
That's what upset me when I was 7.
I can imagine.
Entropy.
They're creepy.
How bad was the Doctor at consoling Nyssa though? When she's like, first off, like her stepmother had been killed, her dad's killed. The Doctor's like, yeah, Dad's dead. And she's like, oh, God, this is pretty bad. And he sort of walks with her and gives her a pat, and then he immediately just turns around and just starts talking about what he really wants to talk about.
I'm sorry.
It's like, oh, yeah, you're fine. You're walking off.
Oh, are you still worried about that? You're still upset?
Yeah. And even later, when he decides to partner up with the Master, she's like, but he killed... Just shut up! I didn't pick any of you people. And then he starts complaining, like, you stowed away on my car, and you're trying to get to the airport. It's like, wow, the Doctor hates his companions. He's just letting it all go.
Yeah.
Which I think probably matches some of the tone on set, too, because it was a very tense Tom Baker's final.
Oh, was it? See, so I didn't get to see the special features here.
From what I saw in the special features, apparently, like, every season for, like, the last 3 or 4 seasons, Tom Baker would say, I'm getting kind of old at this. I think I'm going to quit, like, and use it as a thing. And they'd go, no, Tom, no, whatever you want. And he did that for this season. He was like, I'm getting kind of old for this. And everyone was like, all right, cool, we're going to replace you. And he was like, and then after that, he starts freaking out because is he going to get work? Like, did he make the wrong choice? And yeah, if you watch the documentary, it was very hard to work with him, according to all the producers and stuff.
I would like to watch this documentary. What's it called?
Yes.
It was on the DVD that I got. It's called New Body for the Doctor, or something like that. I don't know. I'll find out.
You can tend to find some of these on YouTube as well. Yeah.
I would like to say that I think that Tom Baker, physically, and you guys have probably discussed this in the past, but just I would like to throw in my hat saying he's a really great Doctor the way he looks. Because his face, you can't quite tell how old he is. Like, because he kind of looks old all the time.
Yeah, even
just because of his
episode,
English homeliness, which I could say as an English person. He's just I'm allowed to say that. He just sort of got like a homely face, but he so he looks like an old man, but his body is that of like I think he's like in his 30s or 40s, but he's very tall and like he's actually sort of like sort of an imposing presence. Like
that's a great question. How old is he?
But that's the thing about Tom Baker is I can never quite tell how old he is. He just sort of looks
moment in 1981.
Young and old simultaneously.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Like John Pertwee just on the earlier Doctors, they all looked like older men.
Yeah,
right.
John Pertwee
so this is comparatively, he was like a very young Doctor to come on. I mean, especially like Hartnell or any of them. Yeah, he was.
Right, and Peter Davison.
But you're right.
Younger.
He did this for 7 years at this point.
Yeah, I think it was 7 years, right?
And he didn't seem to age at all. You're exactly right. I think he actually was a Time Lord, to be honest with you.
I was watching old clips, like when he first, like his first appearance, when Tom Baker, and there's a scene, you covered it, I'm sure, like where he's trying on different outfits in his first episode. Yeah. So you see in some of those costumes that he's like really impressively built. Like, he's wearing, like, that, like, jester outfit. Like, he's very tall.
Wait a minute. I don't remember. Did you do that? We're all clear. He's very
jester
built.
Outfit, like, in that funny scene. He's like, do you like this? And, like, you're like, well, Tom Baker's, like,
I remember thinking specifically.
I just imagine Mike watching that scene now and just, like, scrolling in the notebook. His guy is so cut.
I'm just saying, he looks like a swimmer. He's like, it's all like, he looks like Michael Phelps.
He was 70s cut. It's a very different thing than current day cut. So.
All right, you guys are not agreeing with me. I see in the video. I'm just saying.
No.
We have not seen that. It's funny. It just made me laugh.
I do agree that he is ageless though in this character. I think you're right. He's perfect for it because you can't tell. Even over the course of all these years he's been playing the character, he looks almost identical.
So good job, Tom Baker.
Yeah, way to not age, buddy.
So the Master controls Nyssa. Jumping around here, but only controls one of her hands, right? Yeah. So he's got the bracelet on, and he's making her choke.
He specifically says that,
but her other hand is just sort of just not doing anything to stop it.
What about her feet?
Yeah,
how is he controlling
she's not
her
doing
feet?
anything to stop because later on she does it again, and she's grabbing her own hand and doing that. But for Adric, she's like, all right, I'm just going to let it happen. It's like, poor Adric. Nobody likes Adric, not even his girlfriend.
Also, I don't know. So this is the scene where the Master has got this controlling bracelet on Nyssa, control her hands. Seems to also control all other people in the vicinity to prevent them from like stepping in and being like, "Get your hand out."
Yeah, nobody is stepping up. Everyone's like, "Yeah, well, come on, he's kind of annoying."
I mean, it wouldn't be the worst thing if he got strangled. We'll see how this plays out. Yeah, they're taking their time.
Poor Adric.
Yeah, I don't know how that worked. I did like that the Master, for all of his like cunning and always being a step ahead and having these huge elaborate plans, totally miscalculated on what would happen when he screwed with the calculations on Logopolis. Like, I love the concept of this planet, and the people on it are the computer, basically the organic computer that keeps the entire universe from collapsing. Without their calculations, and they're sitting in the central register, which is that's a CPU, and there's the monitor, which is the control process for a CPU. Like, this whole thing is very like maybe a little heavy-handed in that terms of the metaphor. But I like the idea of just being able to intone these calculations are the thing that actually makes reality change around them. That was a really cool concept in this.
I like that. And I do like the comment that I think Nisa makes when she looks at all those poor guys working. She's like, we call these sweatshops. And then they just kind of move along. It's like, oh, you poor living computers.
Well, so to the Master's plan, I have a question.
Yeah, me too.
Because in part 3 of the story, he seems like he makes a mistake. Seems like he tries to take over Logopolis, and inadvertently sort of creates the death of the universe. Through entropy by shutting down the computer, kills it. So then him and the Doctor agree to work together to stop this. But then in the final part of the episode, this is where my question up at the front, where I'm like, does this all make total sense? Is this all the science stuff? It seems like they go to Earth, they get to the big satellite, they figure out a way to prevent, the entropy from spreading. But then I thought it was sort of implied that had been the Master's plan all along to get to that point where he could then hold the Earth hostage, or the universe hostage.
No, to my understanding, his whole plan was to get to Logopolis, take it over, and then use that computer to generate whatever he wanted to. But once he shut it down, he didn't realize that this whole time they were holding all of reality together. So that's sort of where he screwed up. And then I think at the end,
plan B.
He saw, a plan. He saw another opportunity.
He was thinking on his evil feet.
Yes.
He's like, I can turn this into another way that I can control the universe.
But even the Doctor versus the Master at the very end, even being this monumental episode, did Tom Baker seem real low energy? In that last scene where he's like, you have the honor of plugging it in when they're going to shoot the not the Mentat, the Logopolis code into the wherever they were.
They're going to send that out to the universe. Yeah,
right.
Sure.
He just seemed like it was he's not even putting up a struggle or anything. He seemed so out of the scene, and depressed and just sad. And it was that was my take on that.
Exciting.
Anyway.
It was
watching them punch buttons and plug cables together,
phoning that one in a little bit.
I couldn't tell. I didn't know if that was Tom Baker's performance or the Doctor's resignation to the events.
Right.
I don't know how intentional it was, and because it wasn't entirely clear to me at the time exactly what was happening. Because it was really
sure.
All right, I guess
I knew that. It was okay. I'm just gonna let this happen.
But it was pretty low energy, and then they have their little fight scene, which was not all that thrilling. But I liked that the Doctor did trip up the Master using his scarf.
Yeah, that's the classic Tom Baker scarf trip. Classic.
The Doctor wouldn't have been able to do that. Was it?
Yeah, no, he's done that a couple times. It's nice to bring back.
The next Doctor's going to have to just poke people with celery or whatever.
Yeah, that little celery stick.
It's not quite as strategically.
So anything else? We get to the death of Tom Baker. He unfortunately plummets to his death and regeneration.
Plummets
somehow.
/ just gives up. Let's go.
He kind of
Let's do this. Let's do this. Here we go.
Come on.
It's sort of like that kitty poster that's holding on, and he just sort of lets go.
He had both hands on it, and then lets him go.
And there's the door on the other side, but I don't think he even tried to open that one, right?
No.
On the catwalk.
He basically just wanted to do a swan dive right off of the catwalk.
Well,
he was done.
That's the question, but he can't prevent the regeneration from happening, so he knew it was about to happen, right? He knew that he was going to regenerate.
So it was because of what the Watcher had said to him. He knew this is how it's going to end?
Well, I think he knew that regeneration was imminent, right?
Yeah, I agree with Mike on that.
So
I think
my arms
he
are
knew
getting
his
tired.
death is coming.
It might hurt when I fall, but I know regeneration's about to happen. Is that what?
Sure.
Is that where it could be?
I guess. So
they can't stop it, right?
No, that's right. If the Doctor is severely injured enough, the regeneration will start regardless. And that's changed over the years exactly how that process can happen. I went back and watched the Pertwee to Tom Baker regeneration. We actually reviewed an episode, The Robot, where
we saw
the regeneration
the tail
completes,
end of that,
but we didn't actually see the beginning of the regeneration, and that's some wacky stuff right there. That's Planet of the Spiders. Maybe we should go back and watch that because it looks real
we can
weird.
add it to our list.
But another alien being actually helps kick off the regeneration there.
Oh, yeah.
In a previous episode, Hartnell, his regeneration says that it was the TARDIS. Without the TARDIS's energy, he couldn't actually do the regeneration. So they keep, over the course of years, adding on to the canon of how this actually works. But I think at this point, you're right. Like, if he's severely injured enough, it's just going to happen regardless. But my question is, like, did he understand, because of what the Watcher had told him, that this moment itself was going to happen? Not necessarily that a regeneration was going to happen, but, like, you are going to stop the Master, and after that, you're going to regenerate. So maybe he had just given up at this point. He's like, I've reached this point. This is what's going to happen.
It's time. And then we get the... What do you think of, like, seeing all of the villains that he faced during his run, and then hearing from all the companions talking? I thought that was cool.
It was nice to see Mary Tam.
Yeah.
That was good.
Romana won.
Yeah. Which was effective. I mean, for me, I had seen the regeneration for Matt Smith, where they had done the similar thing. You see all the previous Doctors leading up to him in that regeneration. So I see exactly where they got that from. So it was nice. It was kind of a reverse callback for me, because I had seen a previous version of that. But
yeah. And how did Nisa, I think it's Nisa, figure out immediately that was the Doctor? The Watcher was the Doctor.
Is she the one that
she was like,
that?
oh wait, it's her, right? Or is it Adric?
I don't know.
I think it's her, and she's like, oh, it turns out this whole time, like, she's pulling the mask off, and it's Tom Baker underneath. I was like, oh, I guess so. All right, you figured that one out. Meanwhile, I'm like, what happened? And he's got the, all right, okay, entropy.
Well, yeah, I didn't actually, entropy all along. I didn't realize that, I was surprised that the Watcher ended up being the Doctor. Because there's a lot of misdirects there, or at least I'm stupid and just didn't get it. Like, the first time I see the Watcher, I'm like, oh, is that the Master?
I thought it was the White Guardian. I was like, oh, the White Guardian's somehow being connected to this whole thing.
Yeah, or the Black Guardian disguise, or like whatever. Yeah, so I had no idea at the end. So I was that worked for me. What did you think, Mike?
What did you think?
Did you have an idea that this, or you had recalled from having seen it?
Yeah, that's the one thing I did know. So I knew the whole time it was the Doctor.
The only thing.
I mean, so still, like, I'm trying to figure out exactly what version of the Doctor. I do like the idea of it being the pure essence of the Doctor,
like some meta Doctor
one. Do you know, like, so this episode had come at the end of a season, so there was like a break in between? Because it actually doesn't seem to, like, wrap up the story, right? Like, it ends on a cliffhanger.
Yeah, and a lot of times this happens to be the last story, but we've had ones where they've switched, like, in the middle of the season, right?
Yeah, I think actually Pertwee to Baker was in the middle of a season.
Yeah, so it's weird the way that they do it, where it's not quite like.
Now
and I don't know if that's
like always where it's at the end of a season, right? Like, isn't it pretty consistent now with the new Doctor?
Now it is. Yeah.
Now it would.
And then there's the Christmas special. They'll have somehow.
And I guess a lot of that has to do with a lot of these stories being written before they know, and then they're just sort of plugging them in, and then they're updating them to reflect casting changes or whatever.
So my last comment here was sort of a question to you guys about the damage caused to the universe through this episode. Is there, like, because from there, so Adric and Nisa go outside of the universe where they can see it from afar. They go, there's the known universe, and there's entropy, and within this matter of seconds, we see, like, half the universe wiped out through entropy, and they're like, well, there's a couple hours left till it gets to Earth. Tracken's gone.
Yeah.
So that
billions of people gone.
So it's quite a body count, though, in this episode.
I guess it is. I mean, I don't know if in the next episode the universe is restored in some way, but I don't think so.
I don't think so. I think those places are gone. We just got to move on. I think it's one of those things.
Are you guys still worried about the universe?
They also have to sort of make her a companion now. Like, she's got no home, so she's staying with Peter Davison or the Doctor. I assume she is, right? I mean, she's...
Yeah. We're going to have three companions now and a new Doctor.
Crazy.
Oh, it's going to be an exciting new season.
We haven't had 4 people like that, the Doctor and the 3 companions, in a long time.
Back in Hartnell days, there was?
Yeah, we did. Didn't they have 4? Then? They had 4 people in the very first one, right? Because you had his granddaughter and then the two teachers, right?
Teachers, yeah. That's true. But typically when we do a regeneration like this, we have, like, a companion is the through line that carries them across. In this case, it's like Nissa doesn't really count because she was only in one previous story. Tegan's new, and then there's Adric.
Yeah, well, Adric's he's the glue to hold us together.
That's so everything's hinging on Adric.
Right.
Oh,
Adric's planet in E-Space is probably fine, but he doesn't care. Like, why would he want to go home and see his family?
That place is gone now. Actually, I wouldn't. So is that appointment gone? No, that was already gone from at the end of the Warrior Gate.
Okay.
So that was already gone. Never mind. Yep.
We know that the Earth is located in Sector 8023 in the third quadrant. If you guys are ever lost and you need to find your way home.
If I'm outside the universe and need to get back,
just put that into your GPS. You should be good. One thing that we do know from this episode that we were theorizing when we were talking about Keeper of Traken was how the Master actually took over Nissa's father's body. Right. And they do explicitly, the Doctor explicitly says, because he still had the power of the Keeper at the time, that's how he was able to take over the body. We had guessed that when we did our review of that story. We weren't quite sure, but that's locked down in this one.
All right. Well, I think, does anyone have anything else to add? Because I know we have some reviews to read.
Oh, yeah.
Mike, is there anything you wanted to add to Logopolis before we say goodbye to Tom Baker?
I don't know if you want to keep this part in. I probably have to hop off.
Okay.
No, we're good.
Is that all right for not being there for the review?
We'll do our wrap up at the end. That's cool.
This was fun. Thanks, guys. Can I come on again? Actually,
what happened?
Keep this in.
No, I'd love to do it again.
So, actually, I do want to ask, Mike. So now that you went back and watched this episode, and you haven't watched any classic Who in a long time, would you keep watching? If it was easier to find them, actually.
No, I do. I like it. I mean, I like any dark. I just don't watch a lot of TV in general. But so it was nice to have an assignment. I enjoyed it. I enjoy this sort of like old-fashioned sci-fi, and I actually we've been ragging on it the whole time, but I like this stuff when it was like done in an age when people weren't thinking about canon and like everything's like how it all 100% ties into like the mythos. You know, it's just like writers coming up with ideas, and I always enjoy that. I feel the same way about like old Marvel comics. Like, you know, there's a period where people are just creating, and then there's a period where like the fans completely take hold of a thing, and like it all has to be like 100% ironed out. So I just like this. I enjoy this sort of thing, and I enjoy the new stuff too. But you could see the difference.
Yeah.
So I dug it. Cool. Thanks for having me, guys. This is
all right. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
And again, if you want to check out Mike's work, please go to MikeDawsonComics.com, as well as the Nib. Isn't the Nib the best place for people to go, or
the Nib has
do you have all that
recent
stuff linked?
It's probably linked through my site, but the Nib is they publish a lot of great comics, and I've been doing work there lately. So
that's been very good. All right, thank you, Mike.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, see ya. All right, Dan. So we have some reviews, right? We got a couple of Thank You America and the world, not just America, but we have 3 iTunes reviews, and I love iTunes reviews, Dan.
I know you do, and I think people got that point whenever I kept mentioning it over and over and over again. So. Thank you, fans, for
So let's alternate reading. I'm going to start. This one comes from Tigwin. This is a terrific podcast. Eric and Dan show these classics great respect and poke fun when it's deserved as well. They do a great job of breaking down the plot and providing context for the actors at the time. I highly recommend this podcast. I can't get through this. Small nitpick: if they would refrain from using the word episode, specifically targeting me because I do this all the time, when they mean series or maybe storyline, that would be great. Now, Tigwin, as you can see, I struggled, but I tried very hard and corrected myself along the way in this one. I always say episode. I hate it. I hate myself more than you could hate me, and that bothers me as well, so I will do my best.
Yeah, that's definitely. I mean, it's a confusing thing too because we're talking about a story for Doctor Who, but we're also talking about the episode of the podcast that we're referring to. Right. So sometimes that gets a little confusing. But yes,
but I specifically will say this is my favorite episode, or I love the episode Pyramids of Mart. Like, you know, I do that all the time, and I shouldn't.
Yep, and everyone does hate you for that.
All right, Dan. Get the next one.
We got the next one here. I can't... Hang on one second. Sorry. I'm trying to pull this one up because I can't read the full title.
You want me to read it?
Nope.
Okay.
What do we got here? So... Oh, okay. So the next one is from Macash33. More fun than a Mark III travel machine full of Khaled mutants.
Nice. That's a deep cut, deep ref.
I need to get that full title out. There aren't many classic Doctor Who podcasts out there, but this is definitely a great one. It's something of a first-time Who show with new Who fans Eric and Dan looking back at some of the best and not so best classic Who episodes.
And I would add, I have been watching Doctor Who since I was a kid. I'm just incredibly dumb, and it's almost impossible for me to remember episodes I've seen. But for the most part, we are both new to classic Who.
Their love of Doctor Who is evident in the reviews, and it's great to hear some new fans experience the classic show so many of us have loved for decades. If you like Doctor Who, this is definitely a podcast you should check out. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mikash33,
All right.
That's great.
The next one, I can't believe 3. When we get 3, man, it's just like, what am I going to do? Sax for Christ is the username. Now, I'm not recommending Sax for Christ, but if you want to play a Sax for Christ, that's fine with me. Dan and Eric have an affinity for the original. Unlike some podcasts that are self-enamored with themselves and talk just to take up time or have guests. Thank you, Mike Dawson, for joining us on the show today. To take space and time, Dan and Eric invite us into their friendship, which is where the love happens, and their love for the classic Doctor Who series. They are unpretentious. Well, sometimes I can be pretentious, I'm sure, in that if they haven't... Wait. They are unpretentious in that if they aren't sure about something, they ask their listeners to update them. That seems more of a shortcoming on our part, but I will take that as a compliment.
No, it's called interactive podcasting.
It's called Please Help Us. As there is so much information, it is hard to know it all, and that is the truth. I listen to multiple podcasts and really appreciate and enjoy Dan and Eric's commentary. Keep it up, as you are doing a fine job. Favorite Doctor is Tom Baker, but I have met all the classic Doctors except William Hartnell and Sylvester McCoy, and I enjoy all of them. I would encourage you then, Sax for Christ, to watch some of the Sylvester McCoy ones when we get to them, and I think we are going to loop around and do some William Hartnell, so I hope you join us for that. Not sure if you have done Enlightenment. We haven't, but that's on our list. But the E-Space series has some good story points.
I agree 100%. Thank you very much for those reviews, guys. That really helps us out. So that helps other people find our show, which makes me very happy. We do also have, quickly, we have... on Twitter, thank you guys for reaching out to us. You can reach us at TODW Show on Twitter. Mikash, who reviewed our show, also pointed out that if you like overacting, you have to add the story Horns of Niman to your list. The best overacting since Captain Hopper in Tomb of the Cybermen. That's pretty good. And thank you, Hutch999, for also... having a nice little conversation there as well. We also got an email, which you can email us at theolddoctorwhoshow@gmail.com. Mikash also reached out to us there with some nice feedback on what he likes about the show and what he'd like us to see, and just telling us about his thoughts on the classic series. So please get in touch with us at any of those, and that would be fantastic.
Yeah, and I think in that email he had suggested, Horns of Niman. Did you say that already in Seeds of Doom? You already said
Horns
that.
of Niman. I forgot Seeds of Doom as well. That's right. Yep.
So is there anything else that we have? Did we cover all of our...
I think we got all of our socials in there. We got all of our stuff. So you know where to reach us. Twitter, email. Check out theolddoctorwhoshow.com for our schedule of upcoming shows, and also to see all of our previous episodes.
Yep, and if you want to send listener mail, send it to, as Dan said, theolddoctorwhoshow@gmail.com. If it's short enough, like we get some that are longer and it's awesome and we read all of it, but if it's short enough, we will read the whole thing on air. We'll definitely read an iTunes review, regardless of length, but now someone could do like a 6-page iTunes review.
That's fine.
We will have to read it.
That'll be the whole story.
You can go to theolddoctorwhoshow.com, hit the subscribe link, and then subscribe on iTunes. If you prefer Stitcher, we're on there. We're also on Google Play. iTunes seems to be the more popular choice, so if you're able to review there, that would help us out a lot.
Yep.
So thank you. I think we're good, Dan.
Thanks, everybody.
I gotta go fight somebody.
Oh,
cool.
Good luck.
You didn't know I was cage fighting.
I thought you were back into it. I could tell from the cuts and bruises that you're getting back in.
All right. Well, it's always a pleasure, Dan. Thank you for being you. And we will.
Thank you for being me as well.
And thank you, Tom Baker, for providing such great episodes. Next time we meet,
I will be
with Peter Davison. So I'm very excited for that. I've not seen the next episode, and I don't think you have either. So
of course not.
Until then, Doctor Who, forever
out.